Good evening. My name is Raleigh Wilkins, and I am the Managing Director and Founding Partner of Wheeler Wilkins Ground Truth Sales System. We're focused on helping Vice Presidents of Sales and Sales Managers like you as you sit down and look in the beginning of doing your annual planning for 2019. One of the things that I always thought of when I was doing my planning is I wonder what the impact of attrition is on my overall quota. And I knew that there was one, but I really couldn't figure out how to calculate it in a simple way. And it's not like it's one of those things that they pull you aside one day as you look through the promotion path and say, hey, you're going to be taking on a senior leadership role, so we're going to help you with some calculators and tools. Nobody did that. We all figured out ways to do it as we grew up in the business. And so what I did is codified some of these tools and calculators along the way, and I want to make them available to you as you sit down and do your annual planning so you can avoid some of the mistakes that I did. So today we're going to do a very brief overview of what one of those tools looks like, called an attrition calculator. And so you may be wondering, why do you hear about attrition? I mean, I know I'm going to lose headcount, I'm going to replace it again. What's the big deal here? It is a big deal, and it's a much bigger deal than you think. There's a couple of symptoms. The first may be that most of the people in your sales organization in a hunter role right now are within the band of them hitting their payout, but you're still somehow falling behind. The other one is that overall the company's growing, and yet for whatever reason you didn't forecast accurately the rate of growth for the organization. Either one of those doesn't really matter whether that's what's happening, you're looking in the future. This calculator is going to help you start to frame through the 6 components that you need to be aware of as you do your planning for the year. So I'm going to go ahead and share a screen with you around this calculator and just the first couple of pieces of it. So when you look at your data points, you start thinking about calculating the impact of people that are leaving your organization from a sales, especially hunter perspective. There's 6 different components that you want to look at. The first is you're going to want to know what is the average performance of your rep right now. We're going to assume that this is the departing rep. I'm not talking about the high performers, I'm talking about the middle performers and the ones that are most likely to leave. We can address the high performers in another time. The second thing you absolutely need to know, and that you already know, is the monthly quota that you're expected to hit for the reps once they are fully ramped. In this case, for example, we're going to use $50,000. You need to know, obviously, the current allocated headcount. Sometimes that's more than what you currently have, or you may have a reduction, but generally it's what you already have. The attrition rate usually takes a little bit of doing. You're going to need to go look at the last 12 months rolling. I like that a whole lot better than looking at it from the perspective saying, well, what was in the last 12 months last year, same time? I'd rather look at it a rolling 12 to 18 months and figure out what that attrition rate is so I can really get a sense of how that's happening within our organization. Finally, I need to know what the number of months it takes for us to fill a gap. So is it 3 months, 6 months? You know, right now the average is 90 to 120 days, which isn't bad. Some reps are at 180-day marks, so 6 months that are open. That's something, a key consideration you need to think about when someone leaves your organization. And then finally, even though in a little bit out of order, is the months that it's going to take for them to get to full ramp. Traditional is about 9 months. Sometimes they do it in as few as 6. And then it can go all the way out to 18 months depending upon the type, scale, and scope of the role. For this case, we're looking at a basic inside sales rep, maybe an inside-outside blend, $50,000 a month hunter quota, $600,000 a year quota per rep, $6 million annualized for the sales manager. So when you look at this and you think about the calculating for attrition, what do you think that you would calculate on yourself just thinking about this? Knowing you're going to lose between 25 to 35% of the people, and that's your ramp time in 9 months. I can tell you, early in my sales career, if they told me they gave me a 5% buffer on this or $300,000, I would have been pretty excited. But what if I told you that it's not $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000? What if I told you that it's north of $700,000? And I'm going to show you right now. Now, don't let this blow your mind. It's a lot of data points, and we'll show it to you in a minute. In a 9-month ramp, the impact is anywhere between $981,000 and $1.3 million. Wow, what? No, that's crazy. No, it's true. And so I've used math and science and a little bit of trigonometry in order to draw out all the different spheres and shapes and scope and sizes of how this impacts you. Now, I don't expect you to be able to create this type of calculator if you work for me, but you certainly need to know how to plan for it. And you're going to have to think about a few more things here now, like, wow, how am I going to make up for $981,000 when I'm only going to get a buffer of $300,000? Well, there's a couple levers that you can pull. You can increase the average productivity per rep by changing the compensation plan structure. You can hire more effectively. You can make sure that the people are ramped quicker. You can put different controls in place in order to have a promotion path so that people stay longer, so you have less attrition. And then finally, you can simply build out to have more sales headcount so that when you build your plan out, you know that you need to overhire. Either way, there's a cost associated with it. There's going to be a cost to sales. And if your head's spinning right now and you haven't been taught this, don't worry. None of us were. We all had to figure this out as we went. And that's exactly why I started this company, to help people that are in the same type of roles I was, in order to not have to do hard time over creating calculators like these. So you should see a link at the top of your screen right now. If you click on that, people that are watching this right now, I'll go ahead and give you a 25-minute assessment. I'll take you through the calculator and make this available for you. And then we'll be able to spend a few minutes together and think about how you're getting ready for your annual plan right now. Because if you're in a VP of sales role or in a sales leader role, pretty soon you're going to be asked to provide a forecast to the board, and this is a crucial piece of this. Finally, I'm going to leave you with a couple of considerations to think of when you're going to work with the teams. One is, when do I expect the attrition to occur? The second one is, what is the tenure that I have within the team right now? It can be, right now the tenure in the team might be 4 years, but if you look at it, it might be drifting to 3 or 2. My attrition's climbing. That's going to have a material impact on your forecast for 2019. The third piece is, how consistent is our performance? Not on our high performers, but on the core performers. Is it straight across? Is there seasonality, or is the seasonality really driven by a totally... I hope you guys can see that. I guess you saw that my flight is coming up for tomorrow to Dallas. That's the nature of live streams. But anyway, and then finally it's, the impact of incremental performance and the mid-performers. So how am I going to drive that? If somebody's at 60% right now, how do I get them to get to 70? If they're 70, 80%, that's where you're really going to make your number up, because candidly, that's where the bulk of your reps are going to be. They're going to be somewhere in that probably 75 to 90% range. You're not going to fire them usually at that range, and it's really hard to motivate and incentivize them. And creating the right structure for that can be really hard. So at any rate, I hope this is really useful for you. If it was, feel free to share it. Click on that link again. We'll go through the assessment. I'll also put a link on here so that you can contact me. We can schedule the time together. And then I'll give this calculator to you, no charge, just so that you can learn how to use this. But I would ask that you reach out to me so we can learn how to do it together. Again, Raleigh Wilkins, Ground Truth Sales System. Take a minute, kick around our site, see what you think, send some comments to me. And if you have any ideas for future podcasts or video casts like this, just let me know. I'm happy to work on them. Anyway, I hope you have a great night. You get some rest. You can see the beautiful Chicago skyline behind me. I'm going to sign off for the evening myself, and I hope that you have a great night.